one of the areas of success, of course, is setting clear goals. But the question is, what happens if things don't work out quite your way? It's called life. The issue is, how do you stay optimistic? How do you think optimistically about events that go well and events that don't go too well? Optimistic thinking is not about seeing the world through rose-tinted spectacles. It is about how you reflect upon things that have happened, whether they're negative or whether they're positive. And it's got three different areas of thought that we want to illustrate. The first area of thought about negative and positive events is the timescale within which you view them, whether they reflect things that are going to happen in the future or not. The second area is how they pervade the rest of your life and how they generally pervade your mood. And finally, it's about your thoughts around your personal agency. In other words, do you take these things personally or not? This first illustration is about optimistic thinking style with regard to the way you see things in time, whether things will predict the future or not. To illustrate this particular aspect of optimistic thinking style, which is to do with the way you think about negative events affecting things in the future or not, we're going to talk to Nick Barber, who's a very successful financial advisor. So, Nick, with regard to what's happening in your life at the moment, can you tell us about how things are going and how you view things?
Good question, actually. I've just come off the back of I suppose, a period, March in general, that I really didn't achieve exactly what I'd set out to achieve. But it gave me a good opportunity to focus on what I wanted to achieve for April and put things right, as it were. And I'm now in a period where I've got built up a lot of meetings in my diary from contacts that I'd really set my targets on. So I'm now looking a lot more positive for April, and then sort of moving on from there.
Right. So things are looking more positive in April and thinking about positivity moving on. Let me bring you back, if I might, to the way you think about what happened in March. What was it about March? What's your thoughts about March and how that affects the future, if at all?
Well, March was March.
So March was March and it's not April.
Exactly. I know I didn't achieve what I wanted to, but you know, there's some things that went well that I can take into April and build on, and there are some other parts I just need to draw a line in the sand. It doesn't affect, you know, April because I know April is going to be a lot more successful. There's a lot more going on. I've built up a much more steady diary, as it were, and I know I can move that on and build up a bit of a role for April and then, you know, into May and hopefully beyond.
It's interesting the way your language reflects ideas like March is March, it's over and done with, and that what's happening now is potentially the good things that have started to happen in April are potentially going to roll on into the future and the rest of the year. So there's an idea that things are behind you because they haven't gone so well, but those things that have gone well potentially spread out into the future.
Yeah, I think you have to take your positives and realise that they are going to allow you to, I suppose, feel better about yourself and just continue that roll on. Yeah. Whereas if it's not gone so well, then, you know, it's not going to affect what I do in the future. And no, I know it doesn't make me a bad advisor. So I just need to forget about it, you know, take the positives and just move on to the next stage. So right. I think it can work both ways, really. And
if we think more generally about maybe even the last 12 months instead of this very recent period, if we think about generally about the last 12 months, things, because we're all human, no matter how good you are, you're very successful as a financial advisor, but things go up and down. You have a good time, you have bad times. Thinking generally over the last 12 months or so, have you noticed how you think about things that haven't gone too well in the last period, the last few months?
I think you always have to reflect on things that haven't gone too well.
Right. So you're not evading them or avoiding thinking about them. They're real. They happened. They weren't too well.
Of course,
But-
you can't just completely wipe them out. But I always find you can always take a positive out of whatever it is that maybe didn't go exactly the way you wanted it to, and make sure that is moved on into your future as you move on. And maybe things that didn't go so well, you can either push them aside, or you can reflect on how you can make sure that improves for the better. So you can just improve as things go on. So and then once a role's started, if you like, to coin a phrase, it allows you just to continue to roll on and roll on and roll on, and it really does uplift you and keep that role going. And I suppose it allows you to get over, if you've got a good role going, you can have blips along the way, but it doesn't really stop the role.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. I think what Nick is illustrating very well there is this idea that when things don't go too well, which is true for all of us, that doesn't say anything about the future. The event that has occurred that hasn't gone too well for Nick, as you hear, is in the past. It's over and done with, and it's not connected to what's going to happen into the future. And Nick often has this concept of getting onto a role into the future if and when things have gone well. So the idea is that Nick is switching his thinking about negative and positive events. If they've gone badly, they say nothing about the future. If they've gone well, it could be indicative that these things could continue to go well. It's called controlling the way you think about things optimistically.